but we did not know where we were going. The only country we got sick in, we did to take this trip around the world from the Sahara Desert to these fjords in Norway, mountains and rainforests in Ecuador. Everywhere is beautiful.
You can go all the way around the world and experience different cultures, but we're a lot alike in more ways than we're different.
Can I tell you my countries now?
Please do.
Hi, we're Blake and Brittany.
Today we're doing something really exciting. We have some dear friends of ours also on the screen, and they have a really cool experience that they are going to talk about. They spent a year slow traveling, that's a pretty popular topic right now, I would say. So we are not going to talk about it. We're going to ask them to talk about it. So Pam and Woody, where are you right now?
Well, we live in Jonesboro, Tennessee. So that's where we are.
Yeah, that's the northeast part of Tennessee, kind of near North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee all come together. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, how did we even meet?
Actually, Brittany and I met doing the novel writing intensive, correct?
Yeah, we met online before we met in person because you were coordinating and running a really wonderful, fiction writing kind of an intensive workshop that I participated in.
We were online because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
But you were not in Ecuador yet.
No, that was, I don't know, maybe I wasn't even on our horizon. So
yes.
And then we moved, I think less than a year after the novel writing intensive, and somehow I saw or heard maybe through an email, Pam, that what you guys were planning, and we touched base on that. And I won't give away any spoilers right now, but
no,
we met in person down here in Ecuador.
Yes.
All right. Well, why don't you give us just a really quick, elevator type pitch overview of what your big travels entailed?
Okay. Well, what we did is Woody and I love to travel, and we decided to take this trip around the world where we spent 1 month in 12 different countries. So instead of like being tourists where we're running from site to site to site to site and seeing as much of the country as we could, we just settled down into one community and got to know that community, got to know, the people there, went to cafes, went to restaurants, went to church. Woody joined a walking group in Scotland, so we just became participants of that community as much as you could in a month's time. So that was kind of our plan and what we ended up doing.
Yeah. And I think after the fact, you became aware that what you did was slow traveling, right?
Right. Yes. I never even heard the term.
I heard the term before. Yeah.
It was like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I heard the term from you.
Yeah.
I think you were doing one of your podcasts and you said something about slow travel. I'm like, that's what we did.
Exactly.
We did. We're so trendy. We did a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. We didn't know it.
Yeah.
So sort of setting the stage a little bit, you've always traveled. And I know, Pam, your mom, did she work for the airline? Was she a flight attendant or?
She was reservations and ticket agent. So I grew up traveling. And Woody and I figured, where did you go?
My brother was in the army in Germany. So when I was, I think, 14 years old, my mother and I went over to visit him. And so we were in Germany, obviously, but also we were in Luxembourg and Switzerland part of the time. So that was really my first trip overseas. And
my first trip overseas was when I was 15, and I went and spent a summer in Spain for school. So that was the first of many for both of us.
Right, yeah.
Very formative age. So how has travel then sort of fit into the different stages of your life from that point?
I think for both of us, it's been an important part of our life, of course, and just opportunity. I was in the Air Force, did a career in the Air Force, so I traveled around some on military, missions and TDYs as they call it, and so forth. Of course, as you already mentioned, Pam's mom worked with Western Airlines and then later Delta Airlines when they combined, and so she was able to travel, and her family was able to travel a lot.
Right, yeah.
Because of that.
Standby.
Standby, yeah.
Another experience.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I think as a married couple, the first trip we took together was to New Zealand.
Oh.
And when we spent about 2 weeks in New Zealand,
In Tasmania.
Tasmania, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So that's kind of got us going as a married couple, doing things together, traveling together.
And then my family's in Alaska, and we met in Alaska. So after we had children, we actually moved to the States, but my family was still in Alaska. So we did a lot of travel up to Alaska, wherever we lived in the States. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, might as well go to Europe if you're going to Alaska.
Yes.
The distance,
South
the
America.
distance from most of the states is about the same.
Yeah.
Not Washington, where y'all used to live.
Did you travel internationally with your kids, with your girls when they were younger? I know they've traveled independently as adults.
Right. Yeah.
No, we didn't. I don't think so.
Not when they were young. And
Yeah.
even older, I don't know that we've ever done international trips. But they ended up traveling. Two daughters taught English in Japan, and then one of those daughters went to Poland and lived 6 years in Poland.
Right,
So the girls have all got the travel bug too.
Right.
When you began dreaming about this trip, and I don't know how far ahead of time you began dreaming about it, but how did your goals sort of develop and as you planned and prepared for a year of slow travel?
Well, what happened, the way this came about was one of my friends, I found out her daughter had a guest house in Nepal. And when Woody and I, even when we were dating, we talked about how cool it would be to trek in Nepal. So I'm like, wow, a friend of mine has a guest house. We need to go to Nepal and do our trek. And then another friend of mine has a cottage in Denmark. So we thought, well, and we've been invited to both. So we're like, well, while we're over there in Nepal, why don't we just go ahead and go to Denmark while we're overseas? Well, that just went on and on. It's like, well, to keep the costs down, instead of going back and forth year after year, why don't we just go all these countries in 1 year? So that's how the ball got rolling. And I mean, and then it was like, well, let's spend time in each of these places and not just bounce around a lot. So it just kind of evolved from that. We ended up not going to Denmark because my friend from Denmark talked us into going to Norway. She said, "Oh gosh, y'all got to go to Norway," and I've been to Denmark, so it was fine to go to a different country. But and that's just kind of how it evolved.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she told us, she said the Danish people go to Norway for vacation. So that's
Right. Yeah.
so she convinced us to go for that reason. And certainly we don't know what would happen if we go to Denmark, but we're very glad we went to Norway because we really were in Bergen most of the time and really got to make some friendships there. So
Are you still in touch with people in Norway?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
We're in
And
touch with people in Scotland and Norway and Ecuador. And then we keep in touch with people we met on our journey that weren't necessarily, they were traveling
Sure.
also, that we've kept in touch with them.
Yeah, in Nepal as well.
Oh yeah, Nepal.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and your pictures from Norway are stunning, so I'm sure you have zero regrets.
Right.
There were no regrets for any of the countries we went to.
So did you find the structure of having a set itinerary helpful? Because you didn't figure it out as you were going. You had it pretty well figured out ahead of time. Or do you think in hindsight you would have preferred the flexibility of figuring it out on the go?
Well, and I told Woody I'd answer this because we had a lot of structure as far as what countries, but we did not know where we were going. In fact, what happened with you all, I think it was December, wasn't it, when you met Gloria?
Okay, yeah, that
So
sounds
we were
right.
already traveling. So a lot of the countries, we didn't know until a few months out exactly where we were going in that country.
Okay.
So now what's interesting about that is I'm very structured and I'm organized and I wanted to plan it all out. I wanted to say we're going here. I wanted to have all of our reservations. I wanted everything. But COVID, because
Hmm.
we didn't know when, oh, well, we can't go there now, or we're going to have to go home or whatever. We didn't want to pay all this money and not be able to get it back if we changed our plans. So we decided we have our countries because we wanted to do this routing, but we were structured that way, but we were kind of flexible with where exactly we were going. So weren't quite as structured as I had hoped to be, but it turned out. So I was glad it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, and we wanted to hit all the continents except in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So we were able to. That was, I think, one way we kind of looked at the beginning was make sure we hit those continents.
Right.
Yeah,
At
that
least
sounds
one
right.
country on each continent.
How many years like out did you start like seriously planning then, or months out?
Well, it took 2 years, I think. I made a Facebook post. We had decided, let's do this. So I made a Facebook post and said, if you were going to go around the world and spend a month in 12 different countries, what countries would you go to? Something like that. Nowadays, I would say, if you wanted to slow travel around the world, which countries would you go to? So I had a lot of feedback on that. And actually, we had thought about going to Peru, but I had 3 different people say Ecuador. So we're like, I mean, we wanted to go to South America. We didn't really mind where we went. We had been to Venezuela before, but so Ecuador came up quite a few times from people mentioning that. So that was like in the winter, 2 years before we left. So we kind of was for sure about it in June, and so we planned for a year. And then June, the year before we left, is when I started I started making a post about this is where we're at. This is the planning stage. If you want to do this, follow us. So we just started all the research a year out. So it took a year of talking about it and discussing it and figuring it out, and a year of really, really planning it. And we left.
Yeah, we left.
And before we knew it, we were back.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's like, whoa, where'd that year go?
Wow.
And I have been working full time up until about 6 months before we left. So I decided to, kind of retire from full time working and did it that way. So.
Well, that leads well into my next question, which is one I hadn't sent you originally, Pam, and that is without giving away all your secrets, because I know that this is spelled out more clearly in the book, and people who are interested can read it in the book. How did you finance this trip? I mean, I know you're not just sitting on oodles of cash, and I know that you weren't fully retired. I mean, you, Pam, were still working, and I didn't realize actually, Woody, that you retired so shortly before going. So it's possible. Just give a really brief overview of what that looks like for you.
Well, I kept pretty good track of our expenses, and I estimate that probably the whole year only cost us like $12,000 over what we would have been spending if we stayed here in the state, if we stayed at home. We did rent out our house. Well, actually, our youngest daughter stayed here, and then she had roommates. So we did have income from the house being rented. Of course, we didn't have it. We like things we could do away with for the year. We didn't have any like expenses for gas. Everywhere we went, we used public transportation, or had friends that helped us, find the ways around. So we didn't drive that entire year. So that was kind of a saving there, not having those expenses. And we were able to pick countries where, by far Norway was the most expensive country we were in. But then other countries like Ecuador, and others that were not as expensive. And when I mentioned we did work away,
I
in a
didn't
couple.
mention it.
Oh, you did? Okay. We did work away in a couple of countries. So that was where basically they provide, for your doing work for someone. We actually in Estonia, we were on a monastery, a Greek Orthodox monastery, and then in Montenegro, we were at an English academy helping. I'm sorry, Morocco. We were in a English academy. So by doing work away, they basically provide your lodging and your meals there. So that helped out. So yeah, and we were, because I actually, I've had a couple people, here say, how can you afford to do that? And you can do whatever fits in your budget. If you have a $2 million and you want to go live a 5-star experience, then go do it. We saw people probably close to our age group who had backpacks, and they were probably backpacking around.
Wow.
That's cool.
And again, we didn't the places we were not provided a place to stay, like with Workaway, we chose, Pam did that, picking out Airbnbs that fit within our budget, and they were nice, but not elaborate.
And they give discount, like if you
Yeah,
did a
right.
month, you
Mm-hmm.
would get a discount. So part of us staying a whole month somewhere was because, well, we saved a lot of money doing it that way.
That makes sense.
We did
And
most of our own cooking. And so we were able to save there too. And so you could, if you decide you want to do something like this, you can do it within your budget. I think if you just, you have to plan that way.
oh yeah, I mean, you could have even gone to 12 countries in Europe and just taken the train. And well, I don't know how the visas would have worked out, but saving on flights and so on. So I imagine, yeah, with some creativity.
Right.
And you continued working part-time as well, Pam, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
right,
I
right.
continued working. I worked at a theater. So, which, how can you do that remotely? But I did publicity. So it was all online stuff, doing playbills and posters and things like that. So, and then the editing, freelance editing. So I kept busy, but that's what I wanted to do when we went traveling. We wanted to not just be tourists, but we wanted to live there like we would live at home almost. Like, okay, well, I'll go to the coffee shop and work, and do my work like I do at home. So it's
And I
nice.
have had both military retirement and Social Security, coming
Right.
in.
And our mortgage was
And
paid
mortgage
off.
paid off. Yeah, that was a big, yeah, mortgage was paid off. So that's another expense we didn't have. You can make, if you decide you really want to do this, you can make it happen. You just have to plan that out ahead of time
Right.
and know what you're getting into.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
I'm sorry. And again, I'll say probably the majority of our expense, at least 50% or more, was sometimes just in air travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of it was air travel.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when we went from Australia to Ecuador. That was quite a, yeah.
Did you stick to one airline? Try to use points? I don't really know too much. We don't travel that much.
We used mileage to go Ecuador back home. We used
Okay.
mileage.
And a couple other segments we used
Right.
mileage on. And traveling within Europe, it was very cheap. The airlines travel in Europe is very inexpensive.
Right.
So those months we were in Europe, it was not that expensive to travel by air,
Well, that leads in well to the next question, which is how did you choose what countries to visit and how did you rule out countries, which you already, alluded to, crowdsourcing ideas, Pam, but what else went into that process? And I mean, and what you mentioned, every continent except Antarctica. So
Routing because of weather and such. We didn't want to take a bunch of heavy coats and parkas and be anywhere really cold. And Woody does not like it hot. So we didn't take a southern route in the summer. We took a northern route in the summer and took the more southern route when it was winter. So can I tell you my countries now?
yes, please do.
We started in Scotland. So we went from Scotland to Norway to Estonia to Romania to Montenegro to Spain to Morocco to Israel to Nepal, Thailand, Australia, Ecuador, and home. But yeah, the only place that was we could not get away from was Thailand, it being hot. Because whenever you go to Thailand, it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
That was our most, you know,
Yeah.
as far as heat, that was the hottest country we were in.
And probably actually the coldest country we were in, it was Norway in July.
It was
Yeah, oh yeah,
and Scotland in June was
Scotland,
cold.
yeah. So, you know, you get to some of those northern,
Even in the
northern
summer,
continents,
they're
summer,
cold.
yeah, they can be cold. Yeah,
Kind of like Alaska.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Was there anywhere that you really wanted to hit that you weren't able to include?
Yes. We wanted to go to what's next to Spain?
Portugal.
Portugal.
Okay.
So, and let me tell everybody this. There's something called the Schengen rule where you cannot spend, I think it's more than 90 days in the European Union countries. So we didn't know this till we started planning. So we were two of our countries were going to be Switzerland and Portugal. And then we found out we can't do all those countries within this 180 degree or 180 days or something. Yeah. I can't remember all the rules now. You've got to look it up. If you're going to travel to Europe, you cannot spend 12 months there going from country to country. You're limited on how many countries you can go to without special visas. If you can get a work visa or student visa, yes, but we were just travel visas. So we couldn't go to Switzerland and Portugal. And I've been to Switzerland. You've been to Switzerland, so that was okay, even though we love it there. But I've yet to be to Portugal, and we were really close, but we didn't get over there. So next time we go around the world, we're going to put Portugal on the list.
And that sort of overflows into my next question, which was kind of the logistics of the itinerary, factoring things in like weather, visas, and so on. I bet you became an expert in those complexities leading up to your travels of how you had to make it all work.
Yeah, kind of like Pam mentioned, we tried weather-wise, we tried to make sure we, weren't in a place that was going to be too hot or too cold at any particular time. Visas, I don't think we had to.
Yeah, well, there's
what places did we have to get a visa ahead of time? I can't remember. Do you?
Well, in Australia, we could do it online.
Online, that's
so
right.
You can do it. Yeah. In Nepal, we had to do it. Was it Nepal? We had to do it there.
Right there.
And you had to put down how many days you wanted. We messed something up there. We ended up paying a lot of money for something we didn't need. And I think Thailand, somewhere else we had to have a visa, but it was done ahead of time.
Right, yeah.
So everybody watching this, do your research on visas.
Yeah,
and shots also, any kind of vaccines that you may need.
Yeah, every country's, or at least certain countries, it's different. And it changed. It can be fluid. It could change from what we experienced there. I think you mentioned that in Europe, starting is going to require certain visas.
Traveling to Europe, they're starting a new requirement. If you've heard of that, but you have to pay a fee to go into any of the countries.
Yeah, so it's definitely and the U.S. Embassy website or the U.S. State Department website is a very good source for information to just find out, as an American citizen, what you might need going into other countries, and any, like I said, shots you might need, or just in general information about how safe is that country.
Did you have any issues with currency? I mean, I know in Europe, they, of course, that's standard, but did you get stuck with a bunch of currency from one country flying, or pretty simple to deal with?
Yeah, we actually got most of our currency from ATMs in the country.
Okay.
Found out that the credit card we have was a debit card from USAA, but I'm sure there are other, banks and so forth that have a similar situation. But yeah, we were able to get money from ATMs almost everywhere we went. I mean, we did get British pounds ahead of time going to Scotland just to make sure. And when we were in Scotland, we purchased some of the Norway currency for Norway.
We tried to get a little bit or whatever we would need. But and let me make this note. Most places do not take American Express. So make sure you have a Visa or MasterCard or Discovery card because they didn't want my American Express.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to
And
know.
as far as actually using a credit card, it kind of varied by country. Some countries, especially like Australia and most of European countries, credit cards were easy to use. Other places, it was, some of
Like
the other
Ecuador.
Ecuador, right, yeah. It was more, of course, Ecuador take the US.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, we definitely found 3 or 4 countries that cash was very much needed because you never knew
Yeah.
if you use a credit card.
Curious what tools may have helped you in overcoming language barriers. And I know you've got some Spanish, Pam, but most of the countries you went to didn't speak Spanish. How much English did you encounter, or how did you manage with the local languages? What tools did you use?
Most people spoke English. We can almost everywhere find people that spoke English. We had Google Translator if we needed it, especially if we went shopping or something and we didn't know what things were. I think our most difficult time as far as language was Romania because we stayed in a non-tourist town, at least non-tourist for English-speaking people. It was a ski village up in the mountains. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but nobody there spoke English. There was a lady at the visitor center that spoke English. I think she's really the only one we found that spoke English there. So there was a lot of, very few words that they could say, and we used our Google Translator. But most everywhere else we did okay. And, Spain and Ecuador, I could get by some with my rudimentary Spanish, but I do wish, I think that's one of my regrets. I wish I had learned more words before going, even simple like hello, goodbye, thank you, and all those. And I thought, I'm going to do that and never got around to it.
A lot of different languages, though. So,
pardon me?
That's a lot of different languages.
Right, yes.
Did you have a funny experience at a shop where you thought you were buying something and you got back and it was
yes, that was in Romania. I got back. I thought it was like laundry detergent. It was softener. I thought it was grits because it was GRIS. And I don't know why, I just thought it was grits. And it has a picture of wheat on it. So it was not grits, it was wheat. And I'm gluten-free, so I couldn't even eat it. So there are things like that I should have done better with my Google Translator then.
I have a series of quick practical tip questions now. First one being packing tips. You already mentioned that you were intentional about not needing winter gear right now, not needing warm clothes, but how did you pack for a year in so many different places?
Well, one tip I'm going to tell everybody now is if you're going to travel like this, pack half your stuff in a suitcase and your spouse or your partner packs the other half of the suitcase with his stuff, because we lost a suitcase for a whole month. It got lost between Scotland and Norway. So in Norway, we only had our one suitcase and we were so thankful we each had half of our stuff. So that is one of my big travel or packing tips now. It's hard to travel light because when you're at our age, you need a lot of medicines. So we had quite a bit of medicine and things like that we had to take with us. And then we also went prepared for if we got malaria in Morocco or whatever. We had all these medications, antibiotics and such that we took with us. But he's a better packer than me.
I think we both would agree we took more than we needed.
Okay.
Especially I found out that things like toiletry items, toothpaste, or shaving gear, anything like that, you could find anywhere, and even clothing. We could have probably taken, I think I've taken half the clothing I did.
Oh, I definitely have taken half my clothing.
And probably still would have been okay, but if I needed to buy anything, every country we went to, you could find clothing and what you needed, but we didn't know, and So
We failed.
yeah.
We had the biggest suitcases we could. We each had one, plus a carry-on, plus our personal item. And it was a struggle. The suitcases were so big. So trying to get onto trains,
Mm.
airplanes, and everything else was like, oh my gosh. So I wish we had traveled lighter. I don't know that I could have, but it would have been nice if we could have traveled a little lighter.
And you didn't bring like books or entertainment or anything? Did
I
you
had
have
a Kindle, you know,
Kindle?
well, I had
Yeah.
an iPad that I
Yeah.
used as a
Okay.
Kindle, so no books. And then we knew we couldn't buy a lot of souvenirs or anything like that.
And that was my next
If we did, we'd have
question
to ship
was,
at home. So
was your souvenirs. Yeah, I mean, because you wanted to have accumulated a few things, throughout the 12 countries. And I already know your souvenirs, but tell our
yeah,
viewers how you
so
approach
my
that.
earrings, I bought a pair of earrings or two. I don't think I bought three. I bought one or two earrings because they're so small and I
Yeah.
use them. So I bought those in each country. I knew that that's what I was going to get. I liked about half of my earrings I got from resale stores because it was like, oh, these earrings have a story. Anytime I buy something from resale stores, I wonder who owned these. I wonder where they came from. I wonder what their story is. So these that I'm wearing now are from a little resale store in Scotland. And so I wonder about them, how did they end up in that store or whatever. So they were easy to carry around. And then the other thing, before we left, we were going to get a piece of artwork from each country. And I brought a tube, like a cardboard tube that fit in my humongous suitcase so that I would be able to roll them up and put in there. It's an easy way to carry artwork. So I wanted to get original painting from each place. Well, in Scotland, we never found an original painting that we could afford or pack and bring back with us. So I'm like, oh, shoot, that idea went out. I forget it. We just won't do it. Well, when we were leaving, one of our new friends there gave me a card. This one here, a Highland cow.
Oh,
And it was a card. And I'm like, oh, I can just do cards. That's fine. I don't have to do original artwork everywhere. So as you see behind me, these are all of it's kind of glare, but these are all of our artworks. So I got cards. I got some originals. Your son made us this original up here. The green one on top are their lovely mountains. And then so it turned out really nice. We got some prints, some cards, some originals, and that is our wall.
I
So
love that.
lots of memories. And then Woody got a really nice souvenir in Norway.
I think it's my $35 can opener. What happened was the Airbnb we were in, we didn't have a can opener. And so and of course, I think I already said Norway is by far the most expensive country we went to. So I just went to a store there that sold, housing items like that, kitchen items. And the only thing they had was this really, really nice can opener, the only one they had. And it was for about $35, but
Just a little hand. Have it, and we use it.
Yeah, we use it. It's not going to leave it there. I'm definitely going to get my $35 out of it. And it's a good can opener. It works great.
It does. It does. But I told him that was his only souvenir.
That's right.
How did you stay in touch, particularly, with family, with your grandson, and also with all the people who were following along with your travels?
Well, thankfully, FaceTime, we have that, and it worked every place we went. It worked great, so we were able to do that. We sent all of our daughters postcards in every country we were in. So we stayed in touch with them. I mean, at least we were in touch with them, and that way. We stopped in Poland, as Pam mentioned. Our oldest daughter was in Poland for several years. She's back now, but and this happened to be that one of our other daughters was over there visiting her in September. This was between us leaving Estonia and going to Romania. So we actually stopped off for a few days in Poland to spend time with those two daughters. while we were there. And then our youngest daughter came to Montenegro to visit us while we were there. So we actually saw three of our four daughters overseas during our time. And like I said, with our grandson and our daughter, his mother, and our son-in-law, we were able to FaceTime a lot. So that worked great. That was great. It's kind of like we're doing now. Was able to stay in touch this way.
Right. And then with keeping in touch with people that were following along, I did post, I did at least a monthly post, if not more, on Facebook. And then I kept a blog going. So people were able to kind of track us during the blog. So.
Yeah. And everywhere we went, texting, we had, I think every country we stayed in, we were able to text, instantaneously, as quickly as we could text a neighbor across the street. It was very easy to stay in touch with text.
Did you buy SIM cards for the different countries you were in?
Yes,
or did you
yeah,
have?
yeah,
Okay.
He did.
Yeah, I did.
So
yeah.
I had the Verizon international plan.
Okay.
I had that for my year because I was working and needed that, needed my number and everything. But he ended up getting a SIM card at every country.
More souvenirs.
I had more souvenirs.
Right, yeah.
I didn't want him using my Wi-Fi. He had to get his own Wi-Fi.
But staying in touch and communicating, we found to be very, very easy.
Yeah.
As y'all know from being down there too.
Yeah.
It's a small world when it comes to communicating. It really is.
Cool. Okay, well, let's talk about the book a little bit. Now, Pam, you already said that you are an editor. Pam is a wonderful editor. And so I think a book was maybe just a natural direction to go with, to sort of recap after you got home. But tell us about the book. Show us the book.
All right. Well, I did not do this trip planning to write a book, but so many people, because I did a monthly article in our local newspaper here, and then I had my blog, and then I kept a journal and, all my stuff on Facebook and such. So I'm a big social media person. So it was all out there. So people are like, well, why don't you write a book? Write a book. I mean, I'm a writer, I'm an editor, it just seemed like a good fit. So I'm like, okay. So this is my book.
Yay, book.
12 months, 12 countries, a journey abroad. And it is, the subtitle, with travel and budget tips for the around the world adventurer. So, and it's divided into 3 sections. The first section is like planning a trip abroad is the first section. And then we went through each of our countries, and I have like memories about each of those countries, and then travel tips about traveling around the world. So it's a great book. I mean, there's a lot of photos. So I tell people it's a great book for coffee table, some beautiful, that's Romania. It's beautiful. It's a good coffee table book, but it's also, if you want to travel, there's so many tips in here, a lot of what we're talking about, but about how to plan a journey like this, and just travel tips for each country we were in and such. So you can get it on Amazon. And I mean, it's great hard, it's a paperback, but a hard copy is great to have for the pictures. But if you're traveling, please get the ebook, because there's links to all these things I'm talking about, like a link to the visas, a link to Schengen information, links to different places that we went. So I think it's really nice to have the ebook copy if you're traveling, especially if you're already on the road. I was going to where was I? Oh, I went last year. My mother, my 92-year-old mother, she was 91 at the time. We went to Slovenia because she wanted to go to the caves in Slovenia. And I'm like, I wish I had read my book before I went. So I was reading it on the plane, my ebook copy. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, I should have done this. And I'm like, okay, anytime I go around the world, or even overseas sometime, I'm going to read my book first, because there's so many things I forgot that are in it. So helpful tips.
That's a great endorsement.
Yeah.
That reminds me, there was one other souvenir, Pam. Sydney.
Yeah, right, yeah. Can't forget Sydney.
Can't forget Sydney.
You can probably guess which country Sydney was.
Here's Sydney.
There's Sydney.
Sydney now has a bow.
Oh,
Sydney's now been to Alaska 3 times, to Bermuda, and to Slovenia and Croatia and Greece. He has been all over the world. I've done a bit of traveling since I've even been back. So, but I didn't get him till Australia. So he only got to do Australia and Ecuador
yeah.
on our trip. But he's my travel buddy,
Awesome.
my other souvenir.
Yes. So when you committed to being gone for a year, you could have visited 100 countries maybe in that time period if you're doing the normal tourist thing. And but what are some of the benefits of the slow travel approach?
I think, as we've already kind of mentioned, just getting to know people, just planning ourselves in one place in that country for the whole month allowed us to have friendships, places, get involved in a church, which was important to us, and just to feel like you're like I said, you're not a tourist, you're a visitor, and that was, I think, really important. To just have that feeling that, whether it be going in a restaurant or a grocery store or the church, wherever it is, after a couple of weeks, recognize you and they, know who you are, and they kind of greet you. And coffee shops too, wherever it was, have the opportunity, you're not rushing around feeling like you got to do this, and that. Able to really plan ourselves to feel like we're part of that community. We kind of joked that if we got to the point where we're going in the grocery store, we knew where everything was located, we'd been there long enough. It's time to leave. So that really was, I think, the biggest benefit. Just feeling like you're somewhat part of that community by the time you leave.
That's great. Anything to add to that, Pam?
Well, I would love to go to 100 countries.
Yeah.
And I don't mind at all fast travel. That's
Okay.
what I've done most of my life, is more fast travel, place to place to place. But this was really special. And, the memories, the people. In fact, I was texting with our Scottish friends the other day. We were the first ones to know that this young couple were having a baby. And then as soon as they got pregnant again and having another baby, they text us and let us know. So it's just so special to be a part of these people's lives and for them to be part of our lives. And then when I took my mom, when we went to Slovenia, we also went to Montenegro. And I remember where our tour guide that we had for one trip was working. And I went in there and she remembered me.
Wow.
And it was just so nice because we, got to know each other just on a long day tour. And we went up and visited our Airbnb host. That's the only country we got sick in. Needed medicine and such. And he worked at a hospital, so he was able to help us out and take care of us. So that was really nice, real special.
So you were already experienced travelers before your year abroad, but how would you say, if at all, slow travel impacted the way you view the world and the people in it?
For me, there are a couple of songs that kind of emphasize or sum up the way I felt after doing this. Got the whole world in his hands, and I certainly saw that. Feeling like everywhere you go, you feel like there's opportunities to connect with the Christians and see God's handiwork there. And the other thing is kind of the Disney song. It's a small world after all. You realize we're all here on the planet, and you can go all the way around the world and experience different cultures, but we're a lot alike in more ways than we're different. And that's one thing I really it came back with, that feeling.
Yeah, that's the same the how alike everybody is. This has the same. We're happy about the same thing, sad about the same thing. We'd just come out of COVID. In fact, COVID was actually still going on. So there was almost this common bond because everybody had gone through this experience all across the world. So there was that. Everybody is, governments are corrupt. And that was, we laugh at, because it's like almost every country, somebody was going to say, "Oh yeah, our government. Oh yeah, our government." And not, it was just it became humorous because it kind of made you feel I don't know, like brothers and sisters when you're all having the same experience, that you feel like, oh, this is good, this isn't, and such. So, yeah, I think it makes the world smaller. But then there's the beauty of everywhere and the diversity, and from the Sahara Desert in Morocco to these fjords in Norway, and the beautiful mountains and rainforests in Ecuador. Everywhere is beautiful. And even though it's different, it's beautiful. And, God has made a beautiful, beautiful world.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, and to end, just a few kind of top highlights, whatever comes to mind. Like, what were your, out of all the food and drinks, what were your favorite food items that you tried or drinks that you had?
I think one of my favorite foods, I guess it was kind of unique. In Romania, they eat this polenta, like this corn, baked corn polenta with sour cream on top of it. And then they love beets. They eat a lot of beets. So I'd love to get the polenta with sour cream and beets. It was just like, okay, I wouldn't make that at home. So it was unusual. And I was vegetarian, so I wasn't eating meat. So that was a really good thing to eat over there. So that was good. I don't know what you. Oh, Morocco.
Yeah, Morocco.
Our food in Morocco.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell them about the food in Morocco.
Yeah,
it was wonderful.
Yeah, because that was one place we did we did workaway there, and we were at a place was called the English Language Academy. It's actually run by Moroccan, but it's what they do is they teach Moroccans, for all ages, really come there to learn English. And our job as doing workaway there was not to teach them, was just to have conversations with them. So usually after they had a class, they would 10 or 15 minutes, we would spend time with them just answering questions they had. But also the English Language Academy there, they would, a couple of times a week, they would prepare food and tagine, and what was the other item?
I don't know, but I remember the persimmon.
Persimmon
was this fried bread, and they would put,
like
jam or honey and stuff on it. Oh, it's good.
and there was a market. We were in Casablanca, and so there was a big market across the road from where the school was located. And again, you could go in the market and get all kind of food there. So it really.
But it was good everywhere. I love the food everywhere. The best French fries I got in Norway. We were on a cruise, like a boat trip for the couple hours, and right there at the dock was this hamburger French fry place, and so good French fries. And in Israel, I love French fries. In Israel.
Yeah, falafel too in Israel was really good.
So I don't know. It's hard to pick a top one. All the food was so good.
I think the best coffee we had though was in Sydney, Australia. There was this coffee shop that we found.
We loved this.
That was really good. I mean, we found good coffee if you're a coffee connoisseur around the world. Ecuador.
Your coffee.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our coffee. Yeah.
Yes.
As far as the actual coffee shop, that was really.
Any experiences? I'm thinking particularly of your camel ride, which you can talk about.
Our camel ride, but I think I loved it more than Woody.
Oh,
it wasn't just the camel; it was being in the Sahara Desert. Yeah. I thought desert. Okay, desert sounds nice. We used to live in Tucson. We loved the desert there, but sand and more sand. I don't know. Oh my goodness. It was a spiritual experience being on that camel in the desert at sunset. Wow. It was just, everything was like reddish and beautiful and open and big. And that night we spent the night on the desert, and we went up on the dunes and laid out under the sky, and there were shooting stars, and it was incredible experience.
Wow.
Everybody needs to go do a camel ride in Morocco. And then the other top experience, there are a lot of top experiences. So when people ask me what was your favorite country, there is no favorite. There's no favorite anything. There are many favorites. Being on the Sea of Galilee was probably, spiritually one of the top things that happened because, just to be there where Jesus walked and his disciples walked and all the stories that we know that took place around the Sea of Galilee was incredible. It was really incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think that
Exactly,
too, probably.
Exactly. And that was one of the, going back to earlier question about as we were planning going along. Originally, we were thinking about staying maybe in Bethlehem, and I think we were advised because it was probably too dangerous to stay there for a whole month. So we ended up, in Tiberias, in the Sea of Galilee. And like Pam said, I'm sure we had a great experience in Bethlehem, but it certainly couldn't have been topped anything we did in there in the Sea of Galilee.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
Any other interesting attractions that you saw? I guess a little different or landscapes, maybe. You already remarked on the beauty. Like what stuck out? Anything specific?
I think attractions,
Yeah.
the biggest one we went to that everybody would know was the Sydney Opera House.
Okay.
We stayed just outside Sydney, which was a beautiful city, but the Opera House is probably
Right, yeah.
one of the classic places to go as far as attraction. We didn't do a lot of like the tourist attractions, but that one we definitely did.
I mean, even though in Israel we didn't stay in Bethlehem or Jerusalem, we did make a trip to Jerusalem for a couple of days, I think it was, maybe 3 days and 2 nights, and we did, take a tour through the old city and in Jerusalem.
Yeah. But the desert, everything from the desert, the mountains, the mountains where you are to the mountains of Norway. Montenegro was very mountainous. I didn't know that before going. And Estonia's flat.
Yeah.
Flat, but lots of forests. They're known for their forests.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful there. Everywhere, of course, has its own beauty. So, and yes, we would do this again. I don't know if that was going to be one of your questions, but we were talking about it the other day. Maybe in 3 years or something, we'll figure it out and do it again.
Any other final comments or tips for our viewers?
I did write. Oh, so it says in my book to be flexible. We knew leaving that we're not going to be able to make it if we aren't flexible because there's so many, as y'all know, there's so many things that can happen when you're flying or traveling or doing anything. So we tried to foresee things that could happen, like if we were going to have to catch a train one day to go somewhere. We didn't want to fly in that day and catch a train, fly in the day before in case something happens and you're not there for the train. So things like that we tried to look at, and prevent. But things happen, not, losing a suitcase. We didn't let it get to us. It's like, okay, well, we can go buy the few things that we need. And we lived with. That's when we knew that we probably overpacked because we were able to live with one of the suitcases instead of both. But remain flexible. If you miss a flight, then you're going to have an adventure in a different way. Or if you miss your train, or if your Airbnb is no longer available, your adventure is going to be different than what you thought, but you'll still have an adventure. Maybe too much of an adventure, but just stay flexible. I think that's my biggest thing to tell people is it's not going to be any fun if you can't have some flexibility.
And Pam mentioned, of course, thankfully we had stayed very healthy the whole year, but we did purchase what's called a MedJet plan ahead of time, which covers for the whole year. If we had become ill or injured in one of the foreign countries and needed to be transported back to the United States for care, this would have covered getting us back. And whereas if we didn't have that, I think we paid about $1,000, $1,200 for the whole year
for both of us.
us.
Wow.
It was worth it.
Yeah, it was a lot more than that if one of us had, to be transported back
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
by air,
Yeah.
some way. But
If you're in Europe, maybe you don't need that as much because they'll have medical facilities there. But some of the countries we went to wouldn't have had the medical facilities like we needed, so it was good to have that reassurance that we had
yeah,
had some
like I
insurance.
said, thankfully we didn't need it, but it was worth it. It was well worth it, having that. So you've got to, even though you certainly don't want anything like that to happen, it's best to be prepared. So
Yeah.
just think through, especially if you have health conditions, think through, what again, medication, make sure if you have prescription medication you need to take, make sure you have it with you in your carry-on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just common wherever you travel, to make sure you have that.
That's all my questions.
Okay. Oh, I forgot about my souvenir, my knife, my hobbit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing.
Yeah.
Cool souvenir.
Yeah,
Not
that was a
cool as
very
bottle
cool
opener.
souvenir.
Can opener.
Can opener. Can opener.
He gets a can opener and I get a knife.
A good Scandinavian can opener, though. I bet. I mean, it's
There.
probably the best can opener you'll ever have.
Probably.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I
Yeah.
love doing this. It's
Yeah.
been great.
Well, thanks for watching this. We hope you're inspired. Maybe you'll take a similar trip. Let us know if you're planning such an endeavor.
And we'll put the links to all of Pam and Woody's adventures and her book and everything down in the description below if you're interested in that. And we want to thank you for our first ever interview on Average Family Abroad. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.